In this lecture, I will discuss about the first law of thermodynamics. Mainly, this is the introduction of the first law of thermodynamics, and I will also discuss how it was originated. So, what is first law? The first law is essentially a statement about the conservation of energy for thermodynamical systems and recognition of heat as a form of energy. So the most important part of this law, that is the recognition of heat as a form of energy. It tells us that heat and other forms of energy are equivalent. We know that there are different forms of energy: electrical energy, light energy, magnetic energy, etc. The electrical energy that lights our houses, operates machines, and runs trains originates in heat released in burning of coal, oil, gas, or fissioning of uranium. That is in the power plant, that is where the electrical energy has been produced. That energy has been produced with the help of heat energy. Again, this heat was ultimately obtained by burning of coal, oil, gas, or fissioning of uranium. This law has evolved as an expression of our experience of thermal behavior of matter. That is, the first law tells us about the thermal behavior of matter. This law has been applied to a wide variety of phenomena and has proved correct without fail. In fact, several difficulties associated with the first law, and it was associated with the understanding of the nature of heat, and it was overcome by Joule. I will discuss step by step, that is how first law originated. The efforts to develop analytical theory of heat based on dynamical viewpoint led to the introduction of the concept of internal energy, which is defined as the sum of energies of the individual constituents of the system. This was in essence a recognition of the molecular nature of matter. That is another concept, that is the concept of internal energy, is very important. Now, what is internal energy? Internal energy is defined as the sum of energies of the individual constituents of the system. Now, what are the individual constituents? That is the atoms or molecules, and this was in essence recognition of the molecular nature of matter. So ultimately, the molecular nature of matter was established in the first law. The first law is universal and explains various phenomena observed in nature as well as in laboratory, from fall in temperature with height in outer atmosphere to pressure oscillation in a sound wave. So different types of phenomena has been explained with the help of the first law. Now I will discuss about origin of the first law, that is how this law was originated. The researchers which led to the recognition of heat as a form of motion are now well known. Now we all know that heat is a form of motion. But motion of what? Definitely the motion of the molecules, because I already told that first law establishes the establishes that solids are constituted by atoms or molecule. So definitely the motion will be for the atoms and molecules. However, the earliest pioneers confronted certain conceptual problems and their resolution required the brilliance of Mayer, Joule, Thomson, Helmholtz and Clausius. These scientists actually developed the first law step by step. Briefly, 18th century philosophers regarded heat to be an imponderable fluid, an indestructible hypothetical fluid, and its name was caloric. And what were the properties of caloric? Which permeated matter. It can permeate through matter, had no mass, and was highly elastic and non-creatable. So these were the properties of this hypothetical fluid whose name was caloric. It was further supposed that addition of caloric to a body made it warmer, while removal of this fluid made the body cooler. Also, if a body is at a higher temperature than another and they are brought into thermal contact, then the caloric was supposed to flow spontaneously from the hotter body to the colder body until they attained the same temperature. However, there were problems with this theory. So, what were the problems? I will discuss several problems which were shown in different experiments. For example, when a warm body was brought in contact with ice, the caloric was supposed to flow from the warm body into ice according to the basic properties of the caloric. So caloric was supposed to flow from the warm body to the ice. Now, though ice got converted into water, the temperature of the ice water mixture remained the same. We know that when ice at a particular temperature is being converted to the water, at that time the temperature of the ice water mixture does not change. We also know that there is a role of latent heat here and the temperature at that particular instant does not change. That is, during the phase change, the temperature remains constant. It had to be supposed that caloric combined with ice to form water. So here the caloric theory cannot completely explain this particular experiment. That is why the temperature remains constant. So an alternative view generated, the kinetic theory of matter, which is associated with the motions or vibrations of the microscopic particles, and due to heat was generated. And these microscopic particles, that is atoms or molecules, are the building blocks of matter. These theories soon came into conflict and doubts were raised about the caloric theory of heat towards the end of the 18th century. The correct idea of the nature of heat was for the first time given by Count Rumford in 1798. How? While drilling the barrel of a gun with a blunt tool in an experiment, that is the drilling of a barrel of a gun with a blunt tool. So when the drilling were performed, Rumford observed that apparently inexhaustible heat is produced. Inexhaustible heat is produced. That is, if you continue the drilling process, more heat will be produced. In this experiment, there was no source of caloric because a drilling is being performed with a blunt tool. So there is no source of calorie. Moreover, the heat produced was proportional only to the amount of work done and was associated with the kinetic energy of the motions of microscopic constituents of the material. So here the important part of the experimental results is that heat produced was proportional only to the amount of work done. So there is definitely some relationship between the heat and work. And also, as heat is being produced and there is no source of calorie, so that heat must be associated with the kinetic energy of the motions of microscopic constituents of the material. So from this experiment, Rumford asserted that heat is some form of motion. The inadequacy of the caloric theory was further exposed by Davy in 1799 when he showed that rubbing two pieces of ice together resulted in water. According to the caloric theory, rubbing squeezed caloric out of the solid. That is, if you perform rubbing process, then what will happen? The caloric from the solid will be squeezed out, so that liquid produced by friction should contain less caloric than the solid, as due to the rubbing process the caloric was already squeezed out. So ultimately when the liquid will be produced, it should contain less caloric than the solid. But the fact is that the liquid produced in this experiment contained more caloric than ice and thus contradicted the caloric theory. The work of Rumford and Davy was not given much credit, and the caloric theory continued to enjoy great support until Joule's work in 1840s. In fact, Joule put the molecular motion theory on a firm footing by demonstrating that there is a definite relation between work and heat. An experiment was demonstrated. The experiment was paddle wheel experiment. He conclusively established the equivalence of mechanical work and heat in this experiment. In this experiment, the work done by the weights in driving the paddle wheel changed into heat through the frictional force between the water and the vanes of the paddle wheel. Suppose a boat which has some paddle and it is floating through the water, and suppose you are riding in the boat and you are moving the paddle wheel. So when you are moving the paddle wheel, what you are doing? You are doing some work and there is some friction between the paddle wheel and the water. So due to the friction between the paddle wheel and water, some heat will be produced. And according to Joule, heat is a energy which is in transit. This fact is very important. That is, heat is energy in transit. Just as it is wrong to say work in a body, it is also wrong to say heat in a body. Actually, why it is wrong to say heat in a body? Because heat is always an energy which is in transit, that is, which moves from a particular body to another body. These findings greatly excited Thomson, and Thomson used these as the foundation of thermodynamics, a nomenclature given by him to this subject. So the nomenclature thermodynamics was coined by the scientist Thomson. Helmholtz and Clausius formulated the first law of thermodynamics in such a way so that to incorporate mechanical and electrical phenomena, heat and work. So, some mechanical and electrical phenomena was also associated to the phenomena of heat and work. So this is all about the step-by-step development of the first law of thermodynamics. Thank you all who have listened this lecture.